Alrighty, well, welcome to the first Go Ask Your Mother Fireside Chat edition video. Fireside Chat, literally. The reason why I wanted to do Fireside Chat was because Go Ask Your Mother, the name appealed to me. Number one, because the mug my dad gave me. And number two, because it's just kind of funny. Every mom knows what it's like to try to get away, and then once you're away for 2 seconds, your kids come and find you and Mom, Dad told me to come ask you for this. So Go Ask Your Mother is kind of playing on the I'm running away and making videos while I'm hiding from my kids, and I tend to do that next to a fireside because I am a pyro and I love fires. This is where I come to decompress. I meditate a lot out here. I love it. My yard is phenomenal for being in the city. I really, really super lucky. So yeah, the fireside chat. Obviously that also is in reference to FDR and his fireside chats in the 1930s and World War II. And I found out today when I was researching it that he started that 8 days into office, which is nuts. And it's kind of interesting how it ties into everything with the pandemic going on and just everything, the economy, the election, everything. Because when I first heard, when everything started going on with the shutdowns and everything, immediately my touchstone patriotic history was the New Deal. Immediately, the economy was crashing, and that was what I went to in my head was the New Deal, FDR. We're going to have plans like that to recover from this as a nation once we get the virus under control, which I stupidly thought was going to happen because I didn't know one administration could take over so many branches of the government, but that's another video for a later time. But anyway, so immediately FDR came to my head, the New Deal came to my head. When we were able to reopen our ice cream parlor, I had a bunch of awesome friends help me make posters of Rosie the Riveter and of Uncle Sam saying, we want you to keep 6 feet away and we can crush COVID together, and very much the we can do it spirit that I was always taught in school, that I had expected our nation to, under any circumstance, be able to pull together as a country because we're Americans, no matter who the president was. I mean, that was always my understanding, was no matter win, lose, who your president is, you're still an American, whether you agree with that president or not. And it doesn't really feel like that anymore, and I don't think we're going to get anywhere until it does. I think everyone really should reflect on FDR and the messages that he was bringing during his fireside chats, because it was all about unity, no matter, and it wasn't just the United States unity, it was world unity, which I think is a huge key to this. This is when the Allies were this was the heyday. To me, if I had to think of make America great again, if I had to think of a generation to go back to, that for me is the heyday, because we could have been divided. We could have been left and right. We could have had, our own civil war because some of our people supported the Nazis and some of ours didn't. That could have happened, and that's happening today. And that's just mind-blowing to me. We've had this fight before. But the unity that he was able to find in that, the reason that he wanted to come up with the name Fireside Chats was because he wanted people to feel like they were friends sitting around his fireside with him and just talking. And it was a completely new way for a president to reach his people, because it was an unaltered media source. It was his voice to his people. They couldn't misquote him. They couldn't take him out of context because he was speaking to his people. And it's really interesting to see the beginning of that now and how far that has come and where we're at today with a president using the media to disconnect his people and to divide his people, when the first president who really used his own voice and media to reach out to people was to unite us. And I mean, that was, to me, that's when America was great. Like, that's when you can find within yourselves and everyone else that you don't agree with that core value of, this is what we want, this is our nation. That's a great America. Not one that's one-sided, because I'm sorry, once your enemies are gone, once it's just whoever you want left, who you don't see as your enemies, who's the enemy then? Because people who thrive on fear, they have to have an enemy. So who's the enemy after us? You know, it's just nuts. I can't believe that this is what we were taught in school. Things like the New Deal and that patriotism, and then people like Kyle Rittenhouse think patriotism is going to the streets with his rifle. That situation alone has been extremely difficult for me to digest and try to detach myself from, because I happened to watch it live, and I'll probably make another video about that at some point, but and I hadn't been watching the protests live consistently. It had been probably a month since I had before, and I just happened to watch that night. And it just keeps hitting home to me that patriotism is not a 17-year-old with a gun going to the streets. If that's what he thought he needed to do to protect his community, why didn't he sign up for the National Guard? Brett knew at 17 years old that he was joining the Marines. On the day after his 18th birthday, he enlisted in the Marine Corps. That's patriotism. If you want to protect your country, you want to protect your community, that's how you do it. That's patriotism. Not a vigilante who thinks he knows what patriotism is, and so it's his right to go take that on and make that his decision. One of my favorite YouTubers, Bo, had talked about recently how the most patriotic thing that you can do is protest and stand against the government, because that's how we got here. That's everything. The oppression of taxation without representation. And I mean, what do you call what we have in Congress right now? I don't know yes, actually, no, I can say now there's a couple that I can say represent a decent amount of us, but that's just recently. Like, I would like to do another video on that, and actually this video was going to turn into that until I had the FireSide chat idea. This video was originally going to be about how we were taught to talk about politics and religion was not polite and not respectful and not the thing to do. Well, that's how people like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are still in office, and Mitch McConnell. That's a problem. Telling us that we have no right to have those discussions, or how people like Kyle Rittenhouse think that's how they get power to take back their community. They don't see the democracy for what it is, to rebuild together. They see it as us and them. And if anyone who follows President Trump ever wanted to make America great again, don't you think we need to figure out how we got to that point to begin with? If you're looking at the 50s as great, how did we get there? Through the 30s, through FDR, through the New Deal, through the things that united us and made us all feel more like equals, rather than like there's two justice systems. That's when America was great, when we could unite no matter what divided us. That's what makes America great. That's when America you could consider was great. That's the America that we need to get to again. If we want to get to that again, we have to get through our world war, which is COVID right now. We need to get with our allies, the scientists, the people who know what they're doing, Those are our allies in this world war, and we need to listen to them. We need to unite as a world to fight against the oppression from the people who are taking advantage of COVID and taking advantage of a pandemic and using it to their advantage to gain even more power. I think everyone, if you don't know Fireside Chats or FDR, I think that's the biggest thing every American should be looking back at right now to find that patriotic spirit. That to me is patriotism. Fireside Chats are patriotism. Talking, being open, telling people why you feel the way that you feel, and listening to why they feel about the way they do. So that's my first Fireside Chat, guys. I hope you enjoy. Hopefully we'll be doing this again sometime soon. I'll talk to you later.